everybody, what is going on? It's your boy Ron, the 1/3 of the Young Melanated Council. Bam, right there, as y'all can tell. Boom. There was the missus in the background. Woo.
Oh, hi.
Typically we stream every other Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and wherever else you're at in the world. As long as you hit that notification bell and you smash that subscribe button, you will know when we go live next. And again, as we have said before, countless times before, please like, subscribe, share, comments, and all that other good stuff. And it just pretty much enjoy the show at the end of the day, right? Right. So typically, I know a lot of you guys who are coming in, you kind of figure out like, well, but normally don't you guys stream on every other Tuesday? Yes, we do. Typically, normally, yes. However, there are times and chances and circumstances where we don't necessarily stream on Tuesday, especially if there's something big that's going on. Yes, we normally kind of like let that marinate, especially if that falls on the stream Tuesday. And so we let that marinate, and then we come back the following day and still discuss what happened, whatever the topic may be. And for tonight's topic, yeah, we're going to get into what happened last night, because I think it was very eye-opening. I think it was very insightful. And hold on, I'm about to yell at my dog real quick. Yep, so I had to yell at my dog. I had to kick my dog out the kitchen because my dog is a fatty. He's a D1 fatty. Anyways, before we get into tonight's discussion and everything else, I gotta bring on a very, 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 very special guest, a very dear friend of mine. And you know, I gotta brag on her because I can. Why not? It would not be the Melanated Council without this other person who is coming to the stage. Because if it was just me talking you guys' ears off, you'd probably get bored with me. However, when you throw this next person in the mix and we kind of get some dialogue and some great discussions, it gets a little lively. So, because this person, like I said, is a very dear friend of mine, call her my best friend, Ace Boon Coon, all that other good stuff. And, you know, she is just a very lovable person. And I don't know of any other person on this side of the Mississippi River who had anything bad or negative to say about her. I don't know of one. But even then, if I did know of one, I'll call them a hater to the face. Why? Because they are. Again, those are my 2 cents, and that's what I'm sticking with. Boom. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on to the stage the undisputed heavyweight champion of Super Smash Brothers on all platforms and all devices. Doesn't matter which one it is. Yes, she is the undisputed champion. And even if she isn't, she still is an undisputed champion. She just doesn't even know it yet. Right? Right. Boom. So, coming to the stage is the one, the only.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Ron.
Welcome.
Yeah, how's everyone doing tonight? I know it's weird that it's a Wednesday. We didn't want to stream during the debate because I knew that the debate was Tuesday, but I didn't know it was at 9. So I think it was a good idea that we didn't stream.
Right. Right.
We would have had to. I feel like we would have had to do like. We would have had to like live stream it too, and that's just like a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. No, I'm excited for tonight's episode though, because you know how like when everybody's looking forward to, it's like, oh yeah, I can't wait until she debates him. I can't wait. And I was just like, I don't know if I was still having like PTSD from, the Biden and Trump debate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, Oh no, what if she can't string words together to make a sentence? That was having yeah, but I do think she did well, but we'll definitely get into that tonight.
Yes. Oh yes, definitely, definitely. And even then, I mean, just the simple fact of the matter that again, I was watching the pregame show of the debate before the debate happened. How a lot of
Okay.
strategists and analysts and certain political allies, surrogates, Sarah Howell are saying, well, in order for Kamala to win, she has to do this, this, that, and the third. In order for Trump to walk away with the debate with a victory, he has to do this, 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 and this. And how they were very specific in the details in the approach and how each one should do, especially given that the race itself is very tight, very close,
Yeah.
very tight, very close, and literally depending upon the performance of the two candidates at the debate could very well swing the balance one way or another. That's literally how close it was.
Mhm.
And even in like some of the battleground states where you can tell it's a close weight, it's a close race, it's a very close toss up from anywhere from I think the one guy grabbed it at 0.2 of a percentile all the way up to like 4 point I think it's like 4.5 of a percentile as far
Mm.
as who goes where or as far as how the state is leaning towards that candidate. And again, it's close. It's very, very close. And
Mhm.
come November, we're really going to see how close of a race is really going to be.
Right, yeah. I still can't believe it's close. Like, I can, but I can't. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking the other day, this is Trump's 3rd, like, election run, like, presidential run, I mean. So, like, we've been hearing about Trump, following Trump for, like, 8, 9 years now. Like, that's, like, damn near a decade of
Mm-hmm.
our life just dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
This like, for some people, like, if you're, like, 11, 12 years old, this is just the norm for you because, like, prior to 11, 12, you vaguely remember Obama. You were 4 or so when he was elected, and then by the time you entered middle school, you had Trump as your president. And that's, like, around the age when you're starting to actually, probably just, like, talk about what your parents are talking about, to your friends when it comes to the news. And since Trump has created, like, such sycophants, such, just, like, crazy, obsessed fans, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's just been so exhausting and nauseating, at least for me.
Yes.
Like, because I mean, on one hand, Trump is why I got into politics, especially when he won. It seemed like everywhere, like back, I'm reminiscing back in like 2015, 2016. I remember Reddit very, um, like I remember Reddit very well around that time because I joined Reddit like in 2011 or so, and so I remember how Reddit was before Trump and these crazy like trolls or I guess bots apparently that were just skewing the algorithm or not even necessarily like algorithm, just a conversation. around politics and around just everyday stuff. Like, my boyfriend has apparently been on Reddit for like, I guess, longer than me. Not consistently. Like, he'd only go on like the StarCraft subreddit, and he said that Reddit has always been just like racist and things like that. And it's true. Like, there were some insanely problematic subreddits for like a long time, like some very disgusting, racist, vile, vitriolic subreddits. There absolutely were prior to Trump for sure. But I feel like those were like on the fringes of Reddit. Maybe I'm just, remembering Reddit, through rose colored glasses, like a little bit, fondly. Because you'd go on the subreddit, you'd like click on a topic, you read the comments. Comments were well written. If there were typos, people would like correct you. I guess that was, a bit asshole-ish when you think about it. But like, if somebody was a troll, you knew that they were a troll. Like, they would have like negative 130,000 down votes or whatever, like points, or I can't remember exactly how it was measured. And it was like, oh, okay, this person is purposefully being a troll. This person wants to be downvoted. It's kind of a joke, but everybody was in on the joke. Around 2015, 2016, it was very hard to tell if somebody was obviously joking. It was very difficult. And it was just like people were just getting like very racist, very sexist. It was almost as if like, I don't know, like the grime and like the grossness of people, it was starting to like seep into like the other subreddits.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just getting very strange. For example, like the subreddit Tinder used to be very funny. It would be like screenshots of just like witty comments and things like that, of like what people say, what people respond with, men and women. And yeah, then all of a sudden, like they would get upvoted and, liked, and, it was fine. It was like a fun time. And then all of a sudden, like when women would post the same types of like witty comments, like men would start to just like respond negatively, or just like not getting the joke, or just like being apologist to like the guy that she was messaging. And it was just really bizarre, and it just seemed like it was a weird thing that just sort of switched. It was like it was just like night and day of like such a quick switch. And that was, in my opinion, like really the start of the effects of Trump and like Trumpism and like inceldom and like that kind of rhetoric, when just like the fringes of like 4chan were kind of seeping in more so into Reddit. Not like there wasn't ever an overlap, it was just becoming the norm. And it was just like really bizarre. I do believe that if we were to go way, way back, it pretty much started with Gamergate. Which I recently learned, like, it wasn't as many, like a lot of like the attacks on women were just like bots. Like, it wasn't even like actual accounts. So like the amount of people, predominantly men, quote unquote, who were attacking like women in gaming, and just in like more so like nerdy spaces, it was just fake.
Mm-hmm.
But that really just changed the culture of the internet in such a massive way that we haven't really gotten out of that, because now we're still in that space where we just don't know who is a classic troll prior to, let's say, 2014,
Mhm.
and who is like legitimately believing that Haitian immigrants are eating pets, in Ohio.
Oh,
But
don't get me started on that one.
yeah, like that mess is just absolutely wild. Like, I cannot believe that that's actually a thing. Like, they're
Right.
really, yeah. Like, when I heard about that, yeah, yeah, it's like, dude, like, that's obviously fake. Like, that's obviously not a thing that's happening. And yet that made it to the presidential debate stage as something that was apparently a thing. Like, no, 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 like, absolutely not. That's like, it's just really disgusting that they're trying to make it seem that like Haitian immigrants are, like, they're thinking that Haitian immigrants are like out here, um, yeah, just like hunting people's pets.
Let's see.
No, I don't. I don't think that's happening. Like wild animals, because that's like a wide like thing. That's
Now,
all.
now this one I can see. I can see that one.
Like, I don't think that's as big of a part of like their culture though, as it's like stereotyped. Like,
Right.
like every island in the Caribbean has some sort of like voodoo or obia sort of rituals, but it's not like a main part though. Oh.
Yeah. It's my oldest. Well, so I know why you were talking, and Eric, welcome. Good to have you. Good to see you. No,
Yeah.
so in a crazy turn of wild events, um, my school district is closing down for today. For real? For tomorrow.
Uh,
No, like seriously, like is this really just due to the fact that um somebody on social media made a post saying that they were going to shoot up the schools, not just the middle school and the high school, but basically going to be traveling to all the schools in the school district,
hmm.
including the elementary schools. And so I work at one of those elementary schools, and the elementary school that I work at happens to be one of the farthest schools within the school district. So, in light of everything that's going on, the superintendent said, "Nah, we're not doing that. We're not putting kids in harm's way. Not at all.
Right.
Not at all." And Rivers is finally caring about their kids for once. Oh my gosh. And so when I think about that, I think about how there was a guy hanging around my school building ever since school opened, just lounging around pretty much on his PC. We're thinking it's harmless, whatnot.
Mhm.
But I had a parent call and said, like, hey, there's some guy just, hanging around you guys' school building. I think you should actually look into it. Talk to my spouse, and spouse said that I should call the police. Well, I should call the school first before calling the police. So, like, cool, thank you for the heads up. So the principal, she's like, I'll look into it. And so it's been the same guy that's been there, like I said, it's pretty much since school has started. And she told him, like, hey, you can't be here. This is private property, it's school. You got to go somewhere else, yada, yada, yada.
Mhm.
And she said that the next time you come, we're going to call the cops. And so, yeah. I'm trying to sleep. Yeah, no, this one right here, I get it. I get it. The coffee thing. And so, like I said, she talked to him. Our facility director came out and talked to him, told like, hey, if you come on the school grounds again, we're gonna call the cops. And the next time the cops get called and they catch you, you're going to get locked up. So ever since then, I guess this individual has been showing up to the school more times than none. And so today, we got the phone call. She looked into it, and she found out that the man or the young man was watching porn off of the school's
Like Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
That is all sorts of wrong.
Yeah. But it gets worse, okay? So of course, as old dude is, watching porn and whatnot, like he's, you put two to two together and whatnot, and was released. It was pretty much relieving himself on one of the school doors. Hey, Rocky. So we're like, wait, doing what?
That's
And
crazy.
she's like, oh yeah, like, he's doing it right smack dab on camera. Like he's not even trying to conceal it. Like it's literally out there in the open. She's like, it's gross, it's disgusting. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, are we really doing this right now? Like, are we legit doing this? I'm thinking, like, for the past few years, it's been cool, calm, and collective. But this right now is outrageous, crazy outrageous. And even then, like, used to the gun threats and all that good stuff, used to the bomb threats. Okay, cool, great. But this other mess is going on. Nah, I'm not. Nah, like that's nonsense.
Mhm.
That's nonsense. But again, shout out to the caller, who alerted us, because it's like, yeah, that's a serious thing. It's a huge thing. And even then, our security director, he was talking to us about what's been happening around the country as far as the school shootings go, because I guess there was one that happened in Maryland. We're like, wait, there was one in Maryland? Like, how did that one slip underneath the radar?
Yeah, I did hear about that. I think it was in Baltimore.
Yeah, somewhere over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
How? So, he was pretty much, talking to me, but also not talking to me, but talking to the principal. But then again, like I said, he was also talking to me because I just so happened to be at the front desk watching everything. So he was like, yeah, you told me. He said, dude, he was like, you just got to be careful. He's like, he's like, the cool thing is that you're here because a lot of these kids, a lot of their families. So you already know who's supposed to be in here and who's not supposed to be here. So you're good. It's like, but you also know If there's some sketchy folks who ain't supposed to be here, you don't have to let them in. You really don't. If worse comes to worse, if you need to call the cops, to get them escorted, you have every right to do so. Like, yep, betcha, betcha, bet you I will, because when it comes to these kids, even though quite a few of them do get on my everlasting nerves, I will still make sure that they're safe and protected at the end of the day because I care about them that much. But that's just a little sidebar because this actually plays into what we're going to talk about tonight, because there's been some things that were brought up that I think, I don't know if it should be addressed, could be addressed, but could be another some talking points. But we'll just just kind of like take this time to kind of share thoughts, comments, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we kind of be like, could have went a little bit more deeper, but also at the same time getting understanding that with these type of debates,
Yeah.
Time limit, you only have a certain time limit to get your thoughts out, speak to the American people, and hopefully those undecided voters will become decided voters, and whoever, whatever, and pretty much go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, like undecided voters kind of, I don't know, saying annoy me would be mean, but they do. It's, I mean, I don't know. I wish I could just kind of get into like their brain and like their thought process. So like how they're just like, I guess like like their decision making process is like when you're really just on the fence, like you want to vote, but you're just like not sure of who. Um, I do know that Kamala Harris just released. There you go. I know that Kamala Harris just released like her policy page. I heard. I haven't checked it out yet. Initially, I was kind of upset about how long it took because usually I'm used to, when a candidate's running, they usually immediately have a policy page up. But when she first like really announced, when she first announced like she didn't have anything, and I was just like, but I was like, I guess this was all a surprise for everybody except no one at the same time. But I don't know when Biden dropped out. And I guess you can't really just like tell your team, it's like, hey, just create a policy page just in case on the off chance that Biden drops out, and it's like schedule some time in my calendar to think of policies. I mean, I guess she's doing it now. But I feel like if you're a vice president, that should be something that you think about, because that's the whole, I mean, there's more points to a vice president than just being the backup president, but like that's part of it. Because like if the president dies, which when you're like at an age over the average age of like a man's age of death, which I think is like 77 or 75 in the US, something like that. You should be thinking about, okay, how would I lead the country if he were to die in office? I think that's a fair thing to prepare for. Anywho, so they just put up a policy page, I think yesterday or the day before, which I honestly think is kind of smart. I was initially upset, but I think it was kind of smart because that gives Trump's campaign, Trump's team, less ammo. So it's like you have less information to gather about me. So just kind of keeping it a secret, which I think is smart. I don't know if Taylor Swift endorsing her was like I don't know if like she been endorsed Harris and decided to, and like it was like part of the Harris campaign to like have her, endorse her like after the debate and be like, I watched I don't know. It's
Right.
like you don't know what to believe about anything because
Mhm.
part of it is theatrics,
Mhm.
and it's theatrics for a reason. Because it's like, okay, what can get me trending? What can get my name constantly out there? What can get everybody still thinking about me and
Right.
considering me and wanting? It's like now that she has a policy page up in time of before the debate, which was smart. So like if anybody's like looking up her policies while listening to her and the debate, it's like okay, they can do both at the same time. Also, now that Taylor Swift endorsed her and increased like people to go to vote.gov. I think like I think I saw a graph that like it was like 358,000 people decided to go to vote.gov after Taylor Swift announced that she endorsed Kamala Harris, something like that. It was a graph I read. I don't know. It was probably more people. It was probably, I don't know, weighted differently. I have no idea. But yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts. Um, I don't know what your like. What was your favorite moment of the debate, or at least one of your favorites? Ron in chat. Yeah, chat. If you guys listened to the debate last night, or if you just like saw some clips, like what was one of your favorite things that
I,
you remember from the debate?
like I think the one thing that I don't know if it was that lives matter. I think that the one thing that I could say was I won't necessarily say was my favorite thing, but the concept of at least giving both sides a chance to rebuttal, especially when they were told that once one person is done speaking, their mic goes off, and then when the other person is speaking, then their mic comes on. And so it kind of had like it was supposed to be the the moment where you could kind of like shut down and this and the third, but
Mhm.
when they were given time to rebuttal, and it kind of be like, well, no, this is what we're going to do. This is what um yes. This is what I'm going to do and this and the third. So like a lot of the stuff that you would normally see in most debates, how at first they weren't going to go towards it, but again, they still went towards it anyways. It was pretty cool to me. It
Mhm.
was very cool, very 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 cool.
You mean like the mic, like not really cutting off the mics? You mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I like. I kind of wish they cut off the mics a little bit more, but like it's one of those things where like even as a moderator, you don't really want to get dragged online, because if it's like, hey, it's like as a moderator, I need to ask this question. I'm gonna mute obviously Trump, because he was the one who kept saying, no, I gotta say this, I gotta say this, and then he go on. I think like he spoke almost double the amount that Harris spoke. Um, but if you mute him and like pretend he's not talking and you start to ask a question that will make like you'll probably be dragged online. Unfortunately, like like David Muir, one of like the male moderator, the guy moderator, like he's getting dragged apparently. Haven't really heard much about Lindsay, but yeah, like it was just kind of like crazy, even though like he was like, even though like I feel like Trump was talking a lot, people online were still saying like the moderators were trash. Then again, they were saying apparently people were saying the moderators were trash when Biden and Trump were debating, like back in June, I think. Yeah, it was June, wasn't it? That's crazy. That's not even that long ago, but it feels like forever ago. Oh my goodness, like it was such a depressing time. Like thinking like Biden was the Democratic nominee. Like very depressing time. Now I'm like, glad that Harris is just, for like many reasons, and like a big reason, sadly enough, is just the fact that she's younger and can speak coherent sentences. Like that's like we're not even asking for much, but like we're just so like just thirsty for like normal sentences. My like one of my favorite moments from the debate was I think it was a question on immigration, which Trump should have like won, or like definitely dominated in this case because of the whole like borders are thing, and like like immigrants at the border, and and then Harris was supposed to be in charge of that. And I can't quite remember what the question was exactly, but it was initially asked to Harris, and she gave like a not the best answer initially, like just to kind of just answer the question, if she even really did that, because they ask a question and they just kind of answer whatever question they feel like. But she started to talk about like, it's like, I invite you to go to one of Donald Trump's rallies. Um, you'll hear like a bunch of like extreme conspiracy theories, all sorts of things. But then you'll start to notice that people tend to leave early because they're exhausted by the rhetoric, and, like, and they're bored. And it was such a brilliantly placed trap because this was towards the end of her response. So that's the last thing he hears. So when it's time for him to make his rebuttal, he's like, I got to talk about the crowd sizes. I got to talk about the rallies because, like, I have the best rallies. Like, nobody goes to her rallies. Those people are fake. She's paid them. Like, my rallies, like, they're great. They're like beautiful things. We talk like blah, blah, blah. So he had to just, and like he fell into her trap essentially. And it was just brilliant because that's kind of where she wanted him. She wanted him to be unhinged, because with like unhinged rhetoric, it further perpetuates the narrative of the weirdness, which is brilliant. She didn't try to talk as much. I don't know if that was like on purpose. She, made a bunch of like hilarious faces. I thought it was very funny how a lot of the faces she was making, I was also making. And it sort of creates like I guess like the word's like a parasocial, or like, I don't know, like it creates like a relation between um the person on stage and the audience member. It's like anything when it comes to, like watching a movie or a TV show. If a character is saying or doing something crazy and one character is like reacting like how you would react, it's sort of like refreshing in a way, or it just makes it more funny because it's like there's more of like a bond. Kind of like in One Piece. I think one of the reasons why I like One Piece is that Luffy, the main character, is crazy. Like like he is crazy. And some of his teammates like know this. I would say all of them do. And sometimes like they react or they're just like exhausted by like what he's doing, or it's like, oh, please don't do this, please don't do and then he does it and they're like, oh my god. And it's sort of refreshing because like in other, especially like shonen anime, when there's like a crazy main character, everyone's just sort of crazy with them, or they're just like, so it's like it gives like it's like a little bit of a difference. Not in every episode, of course, of One Piece because there's like over 1,000 of them, but there's a lot like that's usually the whole like personality of the Straw Hats. So it was kind of nice to see like, you know, Kamala Harris, who she met Trump that night. They've never met in person prior to that. And for her to just meet this man and, you know, having to debate him, and he's saying some like crazy ass stuff. So, and she's like probably reacting genuinely for at least more than you think. I wouldn't put it past her that some of it is like not, you know, she's probably like hyping it up a bit or you know, doing it for the memes that are going to eventually be created, the TikToks that are I'm sure being created or have already been created. The
Mhm.
like she's definitely doing it for that in that way, and it's genius. It's almost like she's using his tactic against her. All right, see you, Eric. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, have a great
Thanks.
night. But it's almost like she's using his tactic against her. I mean, like she's using his tactic against him. My bad. Of, you know,
Mhm.
trying to keep the spotlight, but she's not being, you know, like rambunctious or gregarious or using like being such a big like showman type of personality. She's just, you know, speaking with her face.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like, and somebody on YouTube made like a brilliant comment because I was watching like Gil shared with me Donkey of the Day, and it was of course Trump, and it was I think it was just the moment that I just shared with you all about the, you know, talking about his rallies and just like riling him up and him just going crazy, or he was probably talking about the immigrants, the migrants eating pets crap. And yeah, but like somebody made a comment saying that Kamala Harris literally just met this man tonight and she already like pretty much like played him. She already like manipulated him, made him essentially do what she wanted him to do.
Mhm.
Imagine what, you know, like foreign leaders have probably done. Like imagine like, you know, like they probably just have to stroke his ego just a little bit. They know how to talk to him. I'm sure these foreign leaders are watching Trump and like his debates, his interviews, and stuff like that, just like how rival teams watch other teams like plays and like other games and things like that to get to know, you know, like how the, you know, how you're the next game, whose team you're going to be playing against, like how they play, what they do, what kind of calls they make, what kind of like runs they do, et cetera, and so forth.
Mhm.
So like they're sitting here like watching this man, and this man has decades of content on him. Decades. Hours upon hours upon hours. And so they're probably studying him. They are. I wouldn't even say probably, of course. They're studying this man. They've studied this man up and down, left and right. And they definitely like are like having him right where they want him so they could just control the richest, most powerful country in the world, like the leader, like no, you don't want that. I'm not sure it makes the end to say. I don't have to imagine what foreign leaders have done. Yeah. No, that's true, Chad. Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good to
it's always
see you.
yeah, it's always great to see you. Yeah. Intel communities have all done psych profiles. Yeah. Because that's the whole point of Intel communities. Yeah. I've never like really like I feel so naive. Like it was such a great comment to read, especially like on YouTube of all places. And it was just so eye-opening that I was like at my desk at work and I had to like get up and like walk around because it just like literally like I felt it's one of those things where it's just like it's right there in front of your face, but you just never noticed it. And it's like, oh, duh. Of course. Of course. Because I was so focused on like disliking Trump, just like his policies, everything he stands for, like his blatant racism, um, sexism, if calling, COVID-19 the Kung flu, like just stroking, like just like yeah, just like stoking like so much like hate and like vitriol in this
Mm-hmm.
country that I never really thought of how he's most likely being so easily played by foreign leaders. Because if Kamala Harris, not saying that she's just a regular old person, like this is what she does. Like this is her profession, from studying law, being a prosecutor, being a district attorney, being attorney general of the state of Florida, state of California, not Florida, state of California,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
becoming a senator for the United States. Like like this is what you do. Like this is what you do. Like you want somebody like Kamala Harris as a leader when she talks to foreign leaders. You want somebody like that. You want somebody who can just like play them. That's what you want. So it's just like if I saw somebody that I was rooting for get played, but it's still somebody like on my team, you know, I would just be so grateful. Like I would just be so grateful that person's on my team. Like, like when you watch the USA team play at, like the basketball team play at the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
like normally LeBron James and Steph Curry aren't on the same team. But when you're playing against like France, you're so glad that they're on the same team.
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes.
So like, yeah, I would be mad if I'm like a massive like LeBron James fan and Steph Curry like beats him. Like I would be very upset. But at least it's the same country, at the end of the day.
Yep.
you know?
You said it right, L. Oh, you
Yeah,
said it.
right. So I don't know, people who've watched the debate, like, and like they see that she like did that and how easy it was. Like that wasn't a hard thing to do. But like she did it so easily, so flawlessly. It's like, yeah, you want her on your team. Like you do. So when people like to talk about like, oh, Trump just looks stronger because he's a man. When was the last time you saw like foreign leaders fight each other, like in a fist fight? Like when was the last time you even saw them like do like arm wrestle? You know? I'm not saying it never happens, but I haven't heard of anything like that in a long time. So you don't really want it's like the strength or at least the appearance of physical strength in a leader for like a country isn't really what you want. You want someone who can like control other foreign leaders. That's what you want. Like Yeah, like you want somebody who's like unassuming that could easily just like slip in and just mess up everything and then just bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want. You don't want someone who's like a freaking like like villain in an anime show that's gonna tell you exactly what they're gonna do right up front, and then you're sitting there waiting, and then they actually do what they say right up front. And it's like, well, yeah, I was expecting this. You don't want that.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, if you are a Itachi Uchiha, it don't even matter. You're like, little brother, just know this. I love you, but everybody's going to be dead. And whether you have built up enough resentment against me to kill me, you're not going to be able to kill me.
Mm,
Like, that was the coldest thing to do. But at the same time, it was one of the smartest things that he could have done because he actually helped Sasuke unleash like the most inner parts in him
mhm.
actually fully came out. The only other time that's ever happened was when he was going against Naruto. But other than that, yeah, nah.
Yeah. Chad, I'm gonna ask, what is Orban? I am yeah, I'm just gonna ask the stupid question. I don't mind being stupid. Trump used Orban. Let me highlight his comment again. Trump used Orban during the debate to make his point. My jaw dropped. Orban in capital letters. So Rocky says physical strength hasn't been necessary since LBJ. He needs someone who's brilliant or at least smart enough to hire brilliant people. Absolutely. Because that's what makes
Yes.
a great leader. When especially when they hire like the right people to do the job correctly and like the best and most efficiently. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like that reference too, Ron. That's true.
Man, listen. And even then, like,
Oh yeah. Hungary destroying democracy there. Putin fanboy. Yeah.
yeah, like,
And-
and the one thing
Oh, gotcha. Victor Orban. True. Yeah.
and the one thing that I'm glad Kamala Harris did set the record straight was I know the Republican Party, they have their talking points as far as what the Democrats are going to do. And especially when Trump said that, yeah, they're going to go and take your guns, this and the third.
Hmm.
She was like, okay, we're going to segue. She said, but before I get into this, let me make one thing clear. Me and my camp, we have not said that we were going to take the American people's guns away because we're gun owners. I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you. Because again, as a Michigan CPL holder, it's like that's the only way I'm actually able to buy a firearm in the state of Michigan. I have to have a CPL. I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you to get a CPL, you have to go to the trainings. You have to spend time on the range. You have to do a lot of the basic mechanics at home so that way you can stay fresh on your skills, which most people don't necessarily do. And
Correct.
even then, the one thing that I've been constantly doing, even since I got my CPL, was pretty much identify certain threats who are coming into my vicinity and how can I deal with those said threats without actually using my firearm? How can I dissolve? How can I diffuse the situation before it becomes a situation? And also understanding if I have to get out, yeah, if I have to get out, how will I one get out? Two, how can I make sure everybody else gets out? And three, where can I go to find safety until help arrives? Again, those are all things that you learn when you get your CPL, when you go get your concealed carry weapons license. Like those are things and skills that you're supposed to have. And for her to be like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. She said, because me and Tim, we're gun owners. Like, why in the world would we take the American people's guns away or do, buybacks when we have weapons of our own? Makes zero sense. Zero
Right.
sense. And the thing is, like, you could tell Trump was leaning heavily on a lot of the Republican talking points because he never one fully addressed what his plans were, what his policies were. He never really um, took accountability for anything and just blamed it on everyone else. Versus
Hmm.
when Kamala, when she was asked a question, she's like, yes, I agree with what President Biden did, and as vice president and anything else, like, what do you want me to do? Disagree with the commander in chief? You smoking trees right now? No, ain't no way. No, ain't no way. If what Biden says, like, this is what we're going to do, all right, I might pull him aside and ask some clarifying questions, like, away from everybody else, just so I can get a better understanding. But
Hmm.
outside of that, if Biden says, hey, this is what we're going to do, all right, cool. How can I help you to get it done? That's what a vice president is supposed to do. And
Right.
actually, just to kind of bring this up too, when what's his name? When Mike Pence was Trump's vice president, and
Hmm.
reading Mike Pence's book, I never finished it, but I got close enough to I could kind of get an idea of how the rest ended. He basically said that there was a point within the administration when, of course, Trump would tell Mike, you go do this, you go do that, you go do this, you go do that because you're ready equipped. Cool,
Hmm.
great, got it. It kind of, he was saying that it came to the point where all of that kind of stopped. And, like, he never really gave his opinion or his thoughts. He was like, well, Mr. President, whatever you want to do, go for it. I'm going to support you. But he also had that kind of secret feeling like, I'm gonna pull you aside. I'm gonna ask you some stuff, and just to kind of get a better idea of what you're trying to do. It's like, I have my beliefs. You have your beliefs, but understand that there may be some things I don't agree with you with. I don't see how this is going to work. For one, for the American people, I'm not seeing it.
Hmm.
But if you're saying that this is going to work, even though against my own beliefs, I just have to be like, all right, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Did you know that Kamala Harris was a gun owner?
Not until yesterday. I had no idea.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it was like maybe it's like her husband, but I don't know. She could be too. That's not that crazy.
Yeah. Oh no.
Like
Not
a
at
lot of
all.
people, yeah, like a lot of people are gun owners. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Democrats are gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do wish that like they spoke on it a little bit more. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
it's like I know a lot of Democrats who are gun owners, like in in my family, like it's not like I have to like think like far, but it's just kind of like I don't know, because like we just want like everybody wants like common sense gun laws.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like mandatory like certain amount of hours of training. I think would be ideal,
Mm-hmm.
but I understand like nothing is perfect.
Right.
Um, I mean, I don't know, like like I feel like the Republicans they try to make voting as hard as possible. I And I feel like that shouldn't be the case. I think it should, be easier to vote.
Hmm.
I'm still shaky about like, voting online or something, but like it should be easier. Mail-in voting is probably like the most um like ADA compliant way for, people who are disabled or just have,
Hmm.
mobility struggles.
Hmm.
But I do feel as though like when it comes to guns and gun ownership, it should be kind of like owning, like, having the license to drive a car. It's like you need like,
I agree.
because it's like there's always like that, you know, that line of like a right versus a privilege.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I remember seeing that Republicans tend to use the terminology like the word privilege when it comes to voting, but they always try to use like a right when it comes to guns. I don't know if it has anything to do with like the Constitution or the amendments. I'm not entirely sure,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I do think people should definitely be allowed to have guns.
Yes.
I just don't think it should be easy is all. Like, because
Yes.
I don't like if you're gonna try to use it to. I mean, you get a gun because you want to shoot. You should learn how to shoot. It's not easy. It's not like a point and click. It's not a mouse. It's not a computer mouse. Like you got to learn how to like hold a gun. You know
Yes.
how to like where to like point the barrel when you're not using it. You got to learn how like, and this is just super super like I'm quite ignorant when it comes to like gun things, but it's not as easy as it looks.
Oh, you're right.
It's not.
And even then, go ahead, El.
I was gonna say it's not impossible. It's just not as easy as it
Mhm.
looks.
Right. And even then, just to back you up on what you're saying too, like there's a lot of training that you have to do in order for you to stay efficient in what you're doing. Like
Mhm.
like the one thing that I normally do is I have like a dummy Glock for training purposes. And
Okay.
basically I don't like Glocks, but whatever. Why they gave me that beyond me. But again, whatever. And so my thing is okay, how fast can I draw my firearm out of my holster and have it on target with the anticipation of pulling the trigger. And so I do that from time to time. I do that from time to time. And again, like I said, why I am given a Glock, knowing that I'm not a huge Glock fan. I think Glocks are like big handguns for no other purpose than just for appearances. Again, my opinion.
Mhm.
But even then, I'm like, I just have to get used to it because again, even though yes, I may not ever own a Glock, but
Mhm.
still, the mechanics are still the same. A lot of the safeties for but the majority of your handguns are probably going to be in the same spot. The magazine release is going to be somewhat in the same spot. The release to for the barrel is pretty much going to be in the same spot. So a lot of things are pretty much going to be universal. It's just okay, get into the mindset of how can I get myself adaptable to this so I get more comfortable. And when, especially when it comes time where if I have to use my firearm, how can I do it in a way where not only do I protect myself, but I protect the people that's around me to the point where hopefully nobody's life is lost. But if it does come to that point, I have to be able to take ownership. Like, yeah, I took that person's life because this person was going to be a danger to everyone else around me. We had no other avenues, we had no other ways of escaping, we had no other means to do anything else but buckle down and defend ourselves. And again,
Hmm.
that's another thing that I've learned, especially when I got my CPL. It's like, okay, you have to understand the difference when you should use your firearm and when you should not use your firearm. When are there times where it's like, okay, are you going to be ready to at least try to make a run for it if you possibly can? Because again, my instructor was a retired police chief, and even then, he was like, if there's a way where you can run and escape, let that be your first option first. Live to see another day, and it doesn't make
Yeah.
you weak. It doesn't make you a coward. It just makes you smart. However, if there's a situation where you can't run away and you have to defend yourself, okay, allow the usage of your firearm if need be to be the last resort. However, if it has to be your first resort, okay. Hopefully, all the trainings and the studyings that you've done puts you in a better position for survival than anything else. So,
Absolutely.
so again, to L's point, like, yes, there's a lot more when it comes to gun ownership. As a matter of fact, speaking of, like, we'll take the case what happened down in Georgia, right? The the kid who used said firearm, he got it as a gift from his dad. Like,
Hmm.
to me, that's irresponsible.
Yeah.
That's totally irresponsible. And especially knowing that mom said, hey, y'all need to be on the lookout because so and so is not necessarily in the right mindset, is not in the right, is not doing the world's greatest. Like, you guys need to be on high alert. And the school district downplayed the concerns that mom had. And so when unfortunately when that incident happened, and when a lot of people dug up what transpired, they went back to the conversation that, okay, mom did reach out, mom did warn, mom did try to do whatever was possible to try to keep as many people safe. However, because the school district failed to act upon it, now the school district's going to have to pay for a lot of the damages that could have been totally avoided
Hmm.
had they acted in the most appropriate way possible.
Right.
Yes, I agree. Gil, I agree.
The whole propane tank's failure. It's like, you know, cars. I feel like since there's like so many aspects in a car that could go bad and could cause things that like can cause fatal or near fatal accidents. It's sort of hard
Yes.
to like compare the two when it comes to cars and guns, even though they oftentimes are compared, understandably so. Like as you all know, I'm always for like just having more bikeable, walkable public transit for that reason, just to have less cars on the road and also to help with climate change.
Mhm.
But when it comes to a gun, now I don't know the exact components and mechanics of a gun, but I would assume it's a lot less components than a car.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Now, of course, accidents can and do happen when it comes to gun ownership, where people accidentally shoot themselves or their loved ones, where they, have like a bullet ready in the in the cannon, and
Mhm.
like their child picks it up and something happens, or like they just leave the gun on the couch or something, and it's like, what are you doing? um but yeah, like, even though, like, accidents and things like that do happen, it's still due to a lack of responsibility and knowledge.
Yes,
Because
I
it's like,
agree.
it's always better to be safe than sorry. That doesn't make you, you know, a wuss or anything. It's just like, if you have children around, if you have, even if it's just you around, you don't wanna just leave your gun somewhere, then you accidentally, like, knock it over, and then it fires off, and,
Mhm.
you know, even if it doesn't hit anybody, it could just, like, hit something, could cause damage, and now that's just a whole other can of worms that you have to deal with simply because you lost track of your own gun for 5 seconds and accidentally knocked it off a table when it shouldn't have
Yeah,
been there in the first place, and
agreed.
yeah, it's like, you gotta treat that like it's a baby. You gotta treat that like it is the most fragile thing on the planet in certain
Correct.
cases, of course. Like, do not risk it for a second, because I've seen an accident, like, I've heard of, like, there was an accidental shooting at my university when I was there. Some kid brought, like, his gun to, like, a frat party. He was part of the frat, and it accidentally went off and, like, shot right through a girl who was attending the party, killed her, and the bullet ended up hitting somebody else, but, like, didn't, I think it was just like a minor injury, but still, like, that's insane. And it was simply because he decided to whip out his gun at a party when there was most likely drinking. Like,
Mhm.
nah.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and even then too, like um, the choice of ammunition that you're going to use for your gun does play a huge key, which not a lot of people talk about.
that's true.
Like
Yeah.
for instance, I normally carry hollows for my 22, and I have full metal jackets for my 22. If I'm going to use anything for home defense, I'm going to use the hollow points due to the fact that once the hollow points enter into the body, they're going to stay there. They're not going to leave. And so that's the main thing is, especially for like home defense, you want to use. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gil, there's so many. And again, I'm gonna prove you my point, right? So there's hollows and then there's serrated hollows, like whatever. But in my full metal jackets, I normally take those ones to the range. And the reason why is because when I go to the gun range, they have things set upside in the gun range where it stops that full metal jacket from exiting the building on purpose. They have that. If I were to use my full metal jacket at home, not only will it penetrate the person who decides to enter to my home unannounced, but it's going to keep on going. And I don't know if it will even reach. No, it does have the capacity and the velocity to reach my neighbor's house, which is across the street from me. And I don't know who's going to be downstairs or upstairs or whatever the case may be. That full metal jacket is going to keep on going until it hits something that's going to stop it. And for all I know, It could be 2, 3 houses that it passes through, and I don't know what person or individual would have been in that path of that bullet, especially from my first initial shot.
Right.
So those are the things that, again, those are things that, if for anybody who is interested in taking even a gun safety class, or you're thinking about going into, you wanted to get your CPL class or get your CPL license, those are the things that are going to get brought up. Like, what type of ammunition do you want to use for home defense or for the range? And for the most part, a lot of people, especially for home defense, it's yeah, yes, yes, do not. But even then, like I said, you know, um, that's why when I go to the range, I normally, when I ever go shoot, I shoot my full metal jackets, because I know they have the capacity to stop them. But even then, when I'm home and I'm more so thinking about home defense, I'm more so thinking about, my hollow tips or my hollow points. But even then, there's other hollow points that are made where it doesn't necessarily kill the person on contact, but it does keep them from moving. So it immobilizes them, and it pretty much keeps them there. They're not gonna die. They're gonna wish they were dead, but no, they're gonna pretty much be stopped in their tracks until 911 call, until 911 comes and picks them up. So there's so much stuff that goes on, and and also to just note to self, for anybody, like, you don't need to have the biggest and baddest firearm. Like, that's all overrated. And a lot of people, they do frown upon the 22s and whatnot. They're like, oh no, they're weak, this and the third. Like, nah, not really. Like, most 22s have enough stopping power to stop someone from entering to your house to the point where they're not gonna bother you anymore. So keep that in mind. And even then, if you're looking at more so price point, 22 may be your best offer. Just going out. I don't like 9 millimeters. Me personally, I don't like them. Dislike them. I shot a few of them myself. Like, nah, I'm straight.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather stick with my 22. And even in then, I told very close friends who are also um, gun owners, and they have their own concealed license, and they're like, yeah, like, what would be the next, if you could buy another gun, which one would you get? I'm like, I will probably get a 45, because of the fact I know it's a little bit bigger than a 22, but I also understand that with me using a 45, it does have a lot of power behind it, and it will put somebody on their butt if need be. But at the same time, I'm more so using that one for self defense if I'm out and about and I don't have my 22 with me. So again, those are things you want to kind of think about, consider, and all that other good stuff. So moving off of the gun topic, because I
Oh,
could talk about guns. Go ahead.
I did want to mention one last thing about guns that I feel like I don't really hear talked about much, but guns are an appreciating asset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, um, I don't know by how much or what or how or why or anything, but you know, that's just food for thought.
Right.
No, there's not many
Right.
things that like appreciate in value, and usually when you think about it, it's usually like a home or like maybe like stocks or things like that. But guns are appreciating asset too.
Yep. Yep. they are not worth the same amount once you get it out the store. Nope.
Hmm.
But I do want. What time we got? Okay, we got time. I do want to kind of facts, Rocky.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Facts, Rocky.
Absolutely not.
Facts. But I do want to kind of like segue just a little bit, especially when we're talking about what was I gonna say? Kind of segue a little bit, and especially because we're talking about like home safety and this and the third. What are you guys' thoughts on Kamala Harrison? Kamala Harris, not Harrison. What I'm thinking about Harrison. Kamala Harris wanting to give um, first time home buyers up to $25,000 as a deposit on a home. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think that's great. I don't know, like, I mean, any money to help is, good. It's better than nothing. I guess, especially if you're doing like a 3.5% down payment, like that's like that would definitely be helpful on homes.
Mhm.
Because like a lot of places, especially like here in South Florida, it's like you gotta put like over 10% down, over maybe even over 20% down actually.
Mhm.
And that's a lot. But for first time home buyers, first in certain cases you just have to put down like 3.5%, I think.
Mhm.
So I think that's great. Is it the best thing ever and it'll fix everything, it'll fix the housing crisis? And like, no. Will it at least help, fix it? Will it be at least one prong towards a multi-pronged approach to an issue? Yes.
Mhm.
Is it the best prong? Is it the strongest prong? I don't think so, but it's a prong. It's a
Right.
multi it's like it's a multi-pronged approach. It will help.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And in
And
addition to the $6,000 I guess like child tax credit that she's promising, like for the first year of a child's life.
mhm.
Like I was thinking, like, I was like, what is that, like $1,000 for the first 6 months? I'm like, I guess that's okay. But I was like, I guess that'll be like $500 a month. You can think of it like that for the first year,
Mhm.
which not a huge amount, but it's a good chunk of change for sure. Like
Mhm.
once again, anything is good. Will it be the ultimate fix for everything? Absolutely not. But it's once again a prong towards a multi-pronged approach to fixing an issue. It's like giving a gallon of a cup of water. I
Mhm.
think I think it's more than a cup. I would in certain parts of the country, like that's definitely more than a cup.
Mhm.
It's like I know that. I mean, Rocky, you're in California, so I that's definitely a cup of water for you,
Hmm.
or like a little cafecito cup if you're familiar with Cuban coffee. Uh, but there's probably still parts of Florida that could be helpful. Not in any of not like in Miami, of course not, or like
Mhm.
Tampa. He's not so much anymore, but there's probably still parts of Florida that might be helpful, parts of Georgia, parts of, like Montana, Nebraska, Tennessee, Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
where that could, be incredibly helpful. But yeah, it's it's definitely a positive. No, it's definitely still not enough.
Agreed.
It's something. At least of course towards like a 3.5% down payment that'll mitigate the amount that you will have to pay, or you and your spouse or your partner
Mm-hmm.
or whomever you're buying a home with, if you choose to, is doing. It's a start.
I agree. I agree. And even then, because I know after the debate, me and the missus, we were talking, and of course, she fell asleep on it and everything else.
Yeah, true, Rocky. You're right.
And we were talking about it afterwards, and she was like, "Well," "Well, what are your thoughts on it?" I'm like, "Well, if it's up to $25,000 for a first time home buyer, then you add on the first time home buyer tax credit, which I think if it's still 8,000, if it's fluctuated anytime, I don't know, but you couple those two in, you know, that helps tremendously, especially a young family that's wanting to get into the housing market in their respective parts of the country. And just to be able to say, this is mine, this is my own. And, and as long as I do what I got to do to make everything work, I think I'll be a-okay. Which again is very crucial in a time where in most places like state of Michigan, for the fact of the matter, like the housing
Hmm.
market it's it's up and down depending upon the city, but in rural areas like the city that I live in, where there's a lot of land available, it will help to get a down payment for buying land that you could use as collateral to get a house built on it. And so it does have its advantages, and
Hmm.
it does benefit down the long term. And so again, there's a lot that could be used for. And again, like Gil said, like Rocky said, it's not enough, but at the same time, it is a positive step in the right direction because many people, especially in my city, they want to be able to buy a house. But even with the two-parent income household working at one of the top employers within the city, even they're still struggling because they really can't afford a mortgage, even though they may have the funds to do it. But you think about paying the mortgage, utilities, taxes, homeowners insurance on top of car notes, car insurance, groceries. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. That stuff adds up a lot.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's a lot that's at play. But the one thing that threw me for a loop was towards the tail end of the debate where Trump said, it's funny how she's making all these promises and this and the third, but the bigger question is how come she hasn't done it as a vice president? What makes you think she's going to do any of it as a president? And I sat there and I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, you know,
Mm.
as much as I would love to disagree with him, because I do know he's done some very shady stuff, very
Mhm.
shady stuff. Like he kind of does make a valid point. But then again, I'm also thinking like, okay, even though yes, he may have made a valid point, was not to say she has already between her and Joe that they've already tried it, but he called in to his buddies on Capitol Hill to get it killed. So that way they don't get credit for it, but he wants the credit for it. I'm like, man,
Yeah, absolutely. That's what always happens.
mm-hmm,
Like it happens, I feel with like either like each party. Like I'd assume stuff like that kind of happens, but
mm-hmm,
if you actually look at like the bills that try to get through and who votes yay, who votes nay, it's usually never like 100% Republicans vote nay and like 100% Democrats vote yay. Sometimes, depending on what it is, especially when
yes,
it's like senators, because there's less of them as opposed to like House members.
mm-hmm,
So like that's the case, but I they for sure like he for sure like calls up his buddies and like or like they meet up, they talk often, of course. So yeah, they absolutely are doing that. That's the annoying part about like running for president because you have like these ideas and promises and it's like, hey, I have like these policy ideas. However, in order to get a policy passed, it has to go through Congress.
mm-hmm,
And like sometimes like the Supreme Court can veto it or like shut it down or do things and reverse it or question it and or yeah, or like the wrong president can veto it. Like there could be like a super awesome bill that could be trying to get passed and the president could just like veto it
mm-hmm,
and it doesn't get passed.
mm-hmm.
So, is the president important? Absolutely. The president's an incredibly important position. Uh, they're the ones who thumbs up or thumbs down policies that are like bills or whatever that get passed through.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to also vote in the, the the right types of Congress people in order to, either create the bills in order to try to get them passed or to at least vote yes on certain bills so they can get passed.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with you 100%. I totally agree with you.
Like
And
that's
I
oh, go on. Sorry.
no, I was saying, and I think that um, getting the right candidates into the right positions will help smooth things out over time. And and even the fact that even if let's just say you get one bill passed that's going to help, cool, great, you know, let's do that. But I did like what Kamala said. She was like, it's time out for playing um, identity politics and understand that if we're truly wanting to help Americans live their best lives, then that means we got to work with people who we really don't want to work with to get the job done. It's time out for it. We've seen what has happened even then. She was like, it's crazy how you say that a lot of stuff was bad in our um, administration or under our administration when the whole time we inherited this mess from you. Like a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that you did, Trump, was under your supervision, and because of the fact that between Joe and myself, we're actually trying to clean up a lot of your mistakes and a lot of stuff that you did was wrong. You know, it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. And so,
Thank you. Yes.
and so, when she was saying that her economic plan, according to Goldman Sachs, would help the American economy versus Trump's economic plan, she was like, this is a no-brainer. Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest investing banks in the world, says that this plan is a good, solid plan for the American people. It's a no-brainer for most folks who understand economics and how it actually plays an important role in everyday life. Absolutely. And even if the top college professors, I forgot which college or university she named, but she said even if those scholars, those professors who their job is economics and studying economics, to teach economics to people who don't know nothing about economics to understand, even if they said that this was a solid plan, then why not push it through versus the plan that you want to put on Trump? It's going to hurt the American people. It's going to damage the middle class. It's going to, of course, make those who are in that top 1% stay at that 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's fair, because if you think about a lot of the people who supported Trump and his candidacy, a lot of them are those who have very, very deep pockets, if y'all know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Very deep pockets. Where, giving $100,000 away just because you want to is no big deal, because they still got like multi-millions just sitting in the bank for no reason.
Multi-billions.
That's a totally different group of people. Like,
that's true. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. That totally different group. Like they just got money just because they want to be Scrooge McDuck. Open up the safe, jump off the diving board, and it's just swimming money. Like, yeah, totally different group of people. That man, if Scrooge McDuck can teach us anything, that's that.
Yeah.
But I do want to bring up one thing too. I don't know if anybody caught this during the debate or not, but understanding that Pennsylvania is a battleground state, and listening to a lot of the voters who are pretty much undecided, and especially when they're saying, especially when they're saying like how at one point they voted for Trump or they voted for Biden, and then they kind of flip flopped, and now they're like, we really don't know who we're going to vote for. My question to you, Ellen, and to the chat as well, as we slowly but surely try to wrap things up. My question to you is, why why do you think more and more people are? Why do you think more and more people are becoming undecided? And could it actually cause more and more people to start looking at independent candidates?
Are more people becoming
Are more people
undecided?
becoming undecided?
And again, even the like, I'll give you an example. I was I was watching. I was on. Where was I at? No, I was paying rent. I was at my landlord's house paying rent, and
Mm,
they have I think it's CNN. They have CNN playing,
okay.
and
Okay.
like I said, sometime last month, they were doing a lot of interviews with a lot of people from all over, and primarily, I think it was like in Atlanta. It's when they had the conversation, and especially among black voters. They were asked a question like, okay, like how many people are Democrats, how many people are Republicans, and how many people are independents? Out of like a group of 10 people, two were Democrats, two were Republicans, four were independents, and then there were two who are just pretty much like undecided. And I'm thinking like, are the are more and more people starting to lean more so independent now versus let's say 10 years ago? And is it because they're tired of the same political points that have gone nowhere?
I don't know. I do know that like non-voters are the biggest voting bloc, I guess, in the United States. They would like they can easily pick and choose and create whatever country they want if they actually voted. So if they're not voting, it's kind of their fault. I won't even say kind of, it is. Like if they're upset about how the country's acting and running and going and they're not voting, that means they're fine with it. They're just complaining because they need to fill the space of conversation. They need to say words in order to sound smart, I guess. Um I know it's a asshole response, but I have yet to hear a um like a like a logic based reasoning to not vote.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I hear the echo. um
I'm mute.
or yeah, sorry. Like for more people to start becoming independent. Yeah, I would agree with you, Ron. It's more so likely that they're just tired of the same like rhetoric. Also, people don't like to admit it, but they're also very easily swayed. You know, it's they could just be saying, "Hey," it's like, "Oh, they're both bad. They're both bad. They're both the same. They're both bad." They're doing the same kinds of things, and like, we need a third party. We need a third party. We need a third party. Um, I was like, we need a good third party candidate. And even though like there are third parties that exist, like there's the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, and um, I guess like the People's Party or something. I can't remember. Like there are other parties. What upsets me though is like either you try to join one of those parties and like get like smaller local offices and positions so that they start gaining recognition and notoriety. Otherwise, you just hear about them every 4 years and say like, "Hey, I can fix everything," even though, for example, the Green Party cannot win the electoral college because they if every single state that had the Green Party on the ballot and voted for them, I think the most votes they would get would be 252 or something, and you need 270 to win. So if anybody who votes for like Jill Stein, for example, it's a waste of a vote because they literally cannot win. I understand wanting to get them to like a certain percentage in order for them, I think it's like 10% or something, or 5 or 10, in order for them to like be able to debate. That I can understand, but if yeah, exactly what Chad is saying, if they don't organize, there's no power. They won't because systematic distrust is an attempt. As long as independence is evenly dispersed along current lines, it changes nothing. Yeah, like it's like yeah, like I've I'm a I'll believe it when I see it type of person when it comes to a lot of things. And one of the things it's like I'll believe it when I see it is when a third party starts to really make huge strides. And by huge, it's not like they need to blow me out of the water huge strides. I literally mean somewhere in the country there is like somebody who's like elected to the Green Party in like like somebody from like the Green Party Libertarian, even though like there are elected officials who are libertarians. Like that's true. But like if it's if there's just like a 5% increase or something of like people who are in the Green Party or people who are like in the Libertarian Party who actually get elected and have a position. This can only happen is like and of course not only, but this it would be easier for this to happen if ranked choice voting was just in every single election in every single state in every single like city municipality what have you. That is the easiest realistic reason. I want to say the only, it's the easiest. I honestly like I would recommend taking a page out of the Republicans playbook, or so-called Republicans, I guess rhinos, as how they should actually be defined. Like people who are just like super pro-life. Like I would say like that's more of a rhino. Um, or just have like Donald Trump. I would classify as a rhino because he's not really like a politician, and he just sort of anyway, whatever. But like just like how like the pro-life or forced birth movement essentially infiltrated the Republican Party. Granted, like there were definitely like higher ups, like I can't remember his name. I know his initials are LL, like Leonard Leonidas or Leonard Leo or something. Um, but like they essentially infiltrated the Republican Party. If you actually want change, and like let's say you have very progressive views, and by progressive, it's literally just like free or cheaper healthcare. Um, if you like infiltrate or the Democratic Party, and everybody likes you and everybody votes for you, then what you want can get passed, and it'll be a lot easier than trying to create a whole other party or try to uplift another party. I think people just want something to rile them up and get them excited, and it just sort of sucks because it's like watching a chess match. Unless you're, like, really into chess, it's it's not that exciting to, like, the normal person. So, that's my long-winded answer of, like, do we need a third party? It's like, it'd be nice if there was more and they had, like, even shot and they actually organized and did things and got elected, but is that happening? I don't see it. I might just be ignorant. I'm just not on that side of, like, the Green Party algorithms. I'm not on that side of the libertarian algorithms. So I'm just not seeing it, unfortunately. I would have to seek it out to see, like, if what kind of movement is actually happening. But until then, until there's, like, some legit organizing and, like, trying to get, like, if I actually see someone that isn't, like, the president under the Green Party, who's just, like, maybe, like, trying to run for I think there's some that, like, run for, like, senator or, like, I don't know, one that's, like, running for, like, a local position that still needs your party, then I would be impressed. Yeah, that's where I would at least be impressed. If it's something that's, like, other than president, your senator, and, like, your congressman, like, like, your, like, person for, like, the house. But, yeah, that's all.
No, good answer. Good answer. Good answer. And in the reason why I asked, I just put an article that I found on Forbes into the politics section that kind of talks about how there's been a very a very steady, a very steady decline in both the Republican and Democratic parties, but there's also been a very steady uptick in more and more Americans identifying as independents. And so the question came to mind because again, I live in a city where it's very red-ish. The county itself is red-ish, but there's a lot of liberal tendencies that are happening. But at the same time, there's a lot more people who identify as independents who really be like, the Democratic Party, I'm not totally on board with supporting. And even though with the Republican Party, they have some good stuff, I'm totally not sold on them. You know, where do I fit in? And even then, like, I'll just
Mhm.
use myself as an example. Like, are there some things on the Republican side that I can agree with? Absolutely. Are there some things that they're doing that I totally disagree with? Again, absolutely. Are there some
Right.
things from the Democratic Party that I agree with? Again, absolutely. But are there some things that the Democratic Party has done that I'm like, y'all looking real sketchy right now? Again, absolutely. Yes. And so um I'm just in this weird space as of right now where it's like, I could understand why George Washington said what he said some centuries ago, that if America ever were to get stuck in a two-party system, that democracy as we know it would no longer exist, because it's like, okay, you mean to tell me that I'm only stuck between a bad party and another bad party that there's nothing else out there that I can choose from. And even then, you brought up a very good point with ranked choice voting. That would actually help alleviate a lot of issues and a lot of problems, because most of the candidates that we get, we do some research, we do some studying, comes to find out, they suck. And even the choices that we get on the other side, they suck just as bad. And so, like, well, shoot, where do I pick and where do I go? Because I don't like this candidate, and I definitely don't like this candidate, and there's nobody else that resonates with what I'm looking for, especially because of the fact that I'm finding myself not necessarily identifying with either or. Because again, either or are good, and they're also just as equally bad. So it's like, mm.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Um, I have one quick question, and then I do want to answer what Gil posted, just like a
Yes.
follow-up question. Um, about like how much of a percentage do you need to agree with a candidate to justify joining their party or voting for them?
I can speak for myself. And even then, I'll even go back to when Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were facing together. We're going off and whatnot. There was a lot of stuff that Mitt had policy wise where I'm like, I could agree with this. I could agree with this. I can get along with this too. And even then, it got to the point where, like, if Mitt wins, I'm okay with him being president. Totally on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Because unlike most Republicans, he was more so able to be a little bit more progressive, but still hold true to a lot of the Republican ideals. Which, like, okay, I can get that. I could totally be fine in a Mitt Romney presidency. Totally fine. Totally fine. But even still, then I was like, you know what? Barack got Barack inherited a crappy economy, a, a crappy everything, and he's doing the absolute best that he can to try to make things right. Like, sure, with the auto industry getting bailed out, he told them, like, listen, we bailed you out. Now it's time for you to repay the money, because that money, in all honesty, should have went to the American people and not the car industry.
Mm-hmm.
But we get that without the car industry, a lot of people are going to be without jobs. So, in order for people to actually have housing and to be able to live and to move and to breathe, you know, we're going to bail out the auto industry with the anticipation that they're going to rebound. And once they rebound and once they've shown steady progress into the right direction, okay, you pay that money back. I'm like, okay, that's solid. I can see why you did it. Don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand, because that's a huge chunk of the economy that could have been wiped out, and that's a lot more people who would have been displaced, not just in Michigan, but just all around the country, who have various plants with said Ford, GM, Daimler Chrysler all over the United States. that's a lot of people out of work if they didn't get bailed out. That's a
Right.
lot of people. A lot of people. So, like, I get that. And I'm like, I'll go ahead and give Barack another 4 more years because I think he earned that much. But at the same time, even if he lost, I'm okay being under a Mitt Romney administration and seeing what he's going to do with it. So for me, if I had to put like a percentage, about 75 to 80%, about 75 to 80, as far as me agreeing with whatever candidate has that actually resonates with me. Yes, 75 to 80%. I'm sold.
That's fair. No. Yeah. I honestly agree. Like I was thinking like roughly like 80% as well.
Mhm.
It's kind of funny how we came to the same conclusion.
We did not talk about this, you guys, at all. At all. But even then, like you, El,
No.
like I didn't get into politics and I didn't start looking deeper into politics until Trump won. And
Same.
I think during that time we were still living out in Colorado.
Mhm.
And when he won, it was like, really? Out of all of the Republican candidates, we have Donald Trump? Like, all right, whatever. We'll see how this goes. And so when we moved back to Michigan, this was about 2018 and whatnot, we're like, okay, this is getting a little weird because Trump just doing weird stuff and, not liking it where it's going.
Mhm.
So that's when I started doing my research on candidates and just digging into their platforms. And even then, having the ability to go out and talk to people who are running it. Like, why should I vote for you? And what are you going to do to help me and my family to survive in this crazy Trump economy that sucks? But we'll get to that later. And a lot of them had good ideas. They were like, want to make common sense laws, want to get people help, and not necessarily throw them in jail because they were caught with 3 bags of marijuana. Really?
Mm.
Or they were strung out on drugs, and rather than having them get detoxed and go to rehab, we're going to lock them up. Or for someone who has an episode or a mental health crisis, and the only thing we want to do is lock them up rather than get them the actual medical help that they needed, that's where we are. And I'm like, that makes sense. That makes a total sense. And even there was one Republican who was running, a retired Navy veteran. He was like, listen, mental health is a huge issue for our county. And my party is not necessarily emphasizing on that because if we want to be honest, the majority of the people within the party that lives within our county, they're retired veterans. And they need just as much help as anybody else because they've seen a whole lot more, they've witnessed a whole lot more, and mentally, a lot of them are not mentally there. So it compels us to help them out, not only help out our veterans, but help out any citizen who is dealing with mental health issues, mental health crises, and to be able to give them help rather than always saying, no, we're going to lock you up because of this is at the third. Oh, we're going to lock you up because this is like, he made a lot of sense. And I'm like, I would not mind, like, if you weren't running, I would vote for him. Just simply put, he's thinking more so about the people versus anything else, and he wants to help the people. He wants to have he wants to have mental health institutions that are centered on helping people cope, manage, and deal with their mental health in a healthy way versus travel 45 to an hour away to get the same kind of help. Like, keep it home. Keep it home.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, true.
But what else is also unfortunately true is that it is 11:11 p.m. on the East Coast.
p.m. on the East Coast.
So
Make a wish.
yeah, make a wish.
Yeah, make a wish.
I know I don't need
I
to
don't need to.
because my wish has already come true
Already come true.
for another successful stream night. You guys make my dreams come true. My wishes come true. And we love you all more for it.
Yes.
So thank you all for joining us on a Wednesday night, which is usually a bit unorthodox for us. But we will be on not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. There's a normal scheduled program. As always, thank you all so much for watching. You guys are amazing. Yes, no, thank you. We're glad that you made it to the end too, Chad.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see y'all on the 24th of September.
Ooh, yeah.
That said, y'all have a great night.
See
And join us in the Discord, where we weren't able to get a chance to answer Gil's question, but we definitely will in the Discord about our thoughts on foreign countries pushing influencers to create right-leaning content. That's an incredibly important question. For right now, I'm just going to say propaganda. Propaganda pays. But with that said, we love y'all, and we'll see y'all on the 24th.
Yes.
See you. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.
See you guys. Peace.
Ciao.